Yep.
Hey,
OT.
too many men on the light. Yeah, I mean, too many men on the mic, listeners. We are in OT. OT, overtime. We're going to shoot, score a couple goals, and walk off with a win here. Great day today talking with Carlos Villa from the Pensacola Junior Flyers.
I
I
just want
can't.
I just want to play on that outdoor surface that's on the beach. I can see it in my head.
Yeah, if you haven't gone, listen to the show on demand. Obviously, you know where to find us on demand if you're listening to us here on either Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or seeing us live on YouTube. Today's a bit of a mulligan. A couple weeks back, we were scheduled to have BJ Ringrose, who is the manager of youth officiating development for USA Hockey, on. And for whatever reason, we were unable to connect because of technology issues. But BJ joins us here today, and we're going to talk about that third leg of the stool, so to speak, when you're talking about hockey game officials and how important they are to our game. What USA Hockey is doing to support those officials and grow the talent pool. I mean, Drew, I love officials.
You do sometimes.
So I do. I love officials, and I'm super excited that BJ is able to join us. He's also, rumor has it, he's got some experience in doing some podcasts himself. I think it was a COVID hobby. So without further delay here, producer Grant, let's welcome in BJ Ringrose. Hey BJ, thanks for joining us on the overtime here with Too Many Men on the Mic. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you for having me on.
All right, Mulligan has been utilized. You're working technology. We've got audio. Super excited that you can come on and talk a little bit about our game and really focus on what you do for USA Hockey and growing our officiating pool and also just have a general conversation about the importance of that role. I call it the third leg of the stool when it comes to our game between coaching, players, and officials.
No, again, once again, excited to be here. Although it's with a bit of irony, only just because it's an overtime segment, and generally game officials don't really like overtime. But at the same time, it is what it is. Whatever gets me on the score sheet.
Well, I'm definitely gonna, when we send this out via social media, there might be a funny GIF. I don't know if you caught the emails I sent out, but we joke. It's so important to our game, and I was just at a symposium in Columbus, Ohio. Not going to mention what symposium it was. Those, I think I've worn out my level 5 card. Oh, there you go. But I was really, just some eye-opening perspective on the state of our officials right now and just some statistics. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about BJ. Tell us a little bit about your journey with hockey and how you've gotten to this point here with USA Hockey and really what your role entails.
I think like most, I come from a family just with a hockey background. The majority of my family all grew up in New England. Both my parents, they grew up in different parts of New Hampshire, and they met at UNH, which obviously is a very proud, long-standing Division I hockey school. That's where they met, and ultimately they ended up getting married. And I think it was my father that just I think my father was the one that asked me if I wanted to start playing hockey when I was 6 years old. So started playing when I was 6, played the majority of my youth experience with Casco Bay Youth Hockey in Maine when we relocated to Maine a little later in life. It was very, very towards the end of my tenure in Maine that I actually, somebody asked me, came about. I was playing high school. It was my first year of high school. And I remember we got done with practice and we were sitting there in the lobby. A buddy of mine, we were both freshmen. We saw the poster hanging on the wall advertising the classroom seminars for officiating. And basically he dared me to go. So he laid it there on me. I said, I'll go if you go. So we made the agreement to go. Long story short, I ended up going. He bailed. And then basically, that was my very, very first year. Worked a handful of games around my playing schedule of high school and all that. And then as I progressed through high school, it turned into a pretty lucrative side gig like it does for most in high school. And then at the same time, my coach, when I relocated to New York a little bit later, my coach in New York was very, very supportive of that. He had the belief that anytime you're spending on the ice, anytime you're spending in the game has got to be a good thing. So he at the same time, he was probably smart enough to know that I wasn't going to go on to a long playing career or anything like that. So basically, he knew I was basically laying other options for myself. But after that, I got into college. I just started going into some of these advanced development programs that USA Hockey offers, like summer camps and our advanced officiating development program. And it's very, very, very early years. I'm kind of dating myself there, but worked a handful of junior hockey and then jumped into minor professional hockey. Worked minor professional hockey for the better part of 10 seasons. Had my run at hopefully getting hired by the NHL. It didn't work out like it does for most, unfortunately. And then I kind of went into career limbo for a handful of years as I kind of figured out, all right, I got to get a big boy job and figure this out. So as I was looking at some other opportunities of some other career work, that's when the USA Hockey opportunity came along. And I started here at USA Hockey 17 years ago as the coordinator of officiating education. And basically, it's been a great career path of 17 years working here out of the national office for an organization that I truly do love. It gave me everything that I have. In the game of ice hockey. At the same time, I get to work amongst some of the best teammates that anyone can honestly ask for here in this office and abroad out there in the field with some of our other coworkers. So,
well, that's a great summary, great story. I love the challenge you gave your teammate. You guys, I'll go if you go. And you went with it, and look at where you are today, leading the officiating for youth hockey. So we're right on the backside of talking to Carlos Villa of the Pensacola Junior Ice Flyers, in an area of the country where the game of hockey is just exploding because of the Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers. We were talking to him about all things youth hockey, and one of them was Jared asked him about how's officiating down there and how is the ref pool down there. And he said it could be better in so many words. So just out of curiosity, as the leader of officiating development for a part of the country that's growing, that doesn't have enough refs today, what tips, suggestions can you make to youth hockey associations like his that are growing that maybe have a shortage of refs? Any ideas or suggestions, outreach those associations can be doing? What are your thoughts there?
No, for sure. And that's just the reality. It's basically here. And then the truth, we do have officiating shortages. And then it's not necessarily quite as widespread as a lot of people think. I mean, there's one number I can throw out there. The fact that basically we hit our highest total ever of registered officials last season. So 31,300 and change, basically. So we have the most officials we've ever had in USA Hockey. The challenge and the problem is it's kind of twofold. One is our player growth has way outpaced our officiating growth. And that is something that we probably didn't, USA Hockey as an organization didn't pay quite enough attention to. Basically with our membership programs and our membership services team downstairs in our office, they're doing exceptional work with basically keeping pace with 100,000 brand new 8U players every single year and doing an exceptional job of keeping those people around. And as I alluded to, those coworkers out there in the field, our player development managers who are working with youth hockey associations to keep the game fun, basically employ best practices as far as developing players. We're keeping more players around. So basically that membership retention level of players has just been amazing and staggering. And the fact is we just have not kept pace with on the officiating as far as recruitment and retention. And then COVID hit us in the sense of where we basically went dark for a matter of lack of a better way to say it. Basically, a lot of the country basically wasn't having any games. Officials were basically kind of finding that they were enjoying their weekends a little bit more, not necessarily spending the entire day at the rink or working 8 to 10 games over the course of the weekend. I can relate it. Like I'm 48 years old. I can sort of relate to, I don't want to spend my entire Saturday in a rink. Basically, as much as I like giving back to the game and I like the relationships out there in the rink, but at the same time, you kind of want your personal time too. So as those guys came back, they kind of realized, you know what, I am happy just working 2 games a day or whatever it is. And suddenly that did some damage as well as far as availability and opportunity to employ those guys into there. So good news is, again, like our numbers are really, really good. But at the same time, there's some work to be done, especially in those kind of more remote areas. And I can certainly see Pensacola being one of those. when I worked the ECHL, or the East Coast Hockey League as it was known back then. I actually worked games in Pensacola, and they had a little bit of they had a modest little organization there. As far as building that out, part of it, I think, starts with the challenge of basically opening people's eyes to that opportunity. Like I said, I started as a dare. Somebody challenged me to do it. I don't know if they're familiar, if any listeners are familiar with the National Association of Sports Officials, but basically it's this widespread advocacy group for officials, all sports. Obviously, they cater mainly to football, basketball, and baseball. That's their bread and butter. But at the same time, they also, cater to all officials of all kind, be it soccer, volleyball, ice hockey, field hockey, and all that kind of stuff. They did a survey about 5 years ago to 17,000 officials across the country. And one of my biggest hot takes from that survey was roughly 1/3 of officials get involved in officiating because somebody asked them to. Somebody posted the challenge to them. Somebody actually asked them and challenged them with it. Now, whether we keep them around, whether they stick around, at the very least, they're giving it a try. And we've been pretty good with recruitment. We've been pretty good with basically every single year. We get about 9,000 brand new officials every year. It's the challenge of keeping them around and getting them from year 1 to year 3, because our numbers show that basically we can get them from year 1 to year 3. Those year 3 officials, we keep 90% of them around for a long time. So it's basically a recruitment effort, at the same time making sure those first couple of years are positive and successful, and basically making sure that they want to come back.
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of it's multi-threaded. You've got the marketing aspect where you've got to market to these, I would say 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old hockey players and say, hey, this is an avenue. And I loved what you said, and I know Drew can speak to this as being the Bank of Acre for his children. Get some gas money, or I would say get some date money, but now it's more like get some DoorDash money, right, Grant? Get some DoorDash money. What are some things or some initiatives that the hockey organizations at a more grassroots level, because they've got the best pipeline into your future refs. It's the organizations like the Pensacola Junior Flyers, like the St. Louis Rockets, like the New Hampshire where you grew up. Those coaches and volunteers have the best opportunity to message that. What are some things that USA Hockey wants to continue to use from a marketing standpoint to encourage these hockey players to try reffing?
Again, I think it's building good working relationships, not between the officiating community and the rest of the hockey community. I was really, really happy to hear when you basically alluded to the third leg of the stool. I use that metaphor all the time, that in the reality, when you basically enter the hockey world, you have your coaches, your players, and your officials. And it's basically the better we all work together, the better the game is ultimately. And I coached for 1 year, and that kind of opened my eyes to the realization that basically, look, the players are going to do what the players do. From a coaching aspect, I'm only limited to like some time on the bench of kind of molding them and trying to get them to do what I want them to do during the games. But the reality of it is, I'm just trying to get to the 60 minutes, just like that guy out there on the ice, just calling balls and strikes through this game. We're just getting through this next 60 minutes, and the players are really going to do what they want to do. So, anyways, again, that good working relationship between the local hockey community and the officiating community. Basically the hockey community, the coaches, the parents, they have to take and have a little skin in the game and basically take some interest in the officiating component. And one successful effort we're starting to see is basically we've had a lot of success with Try Hockey for Free, getting players out there with that's not necessarily any major investment or anything like that. Just give the game a try. And if we keep it fun, they're going to want to come back. We've started to launch Try Officiating campaigns where all we do is basically within a local association recruit a 12U team and basically bring them out on the ice. It's a little basically shirts and skins kind of like up and down scrimmage where basically it's non-competitive. It's just meant to be fun, but at the same time we bring in players from another team or something along those lines, and they're just simply to go out there and participate in the game as officials. And we had a really successful run with this in Columbus, Ohio. And it's oddly enough, it was the same weekend as that Level 5. It was just down the street at the Nationwide Arena where we brought in a 12U team, and we had about 20 participants from around the greater Columbus area come in and try officiating. And they had supervisors on the bench that were giving coaching on the bench to the officials before they sent them out there. At the same time, the officials are out there working. They had an on-ice shadow, basically following them around up and down the ice, pointing them in the right direction. But because it's just that low competitive, keep it fun, just keep it friendly type of environment where these guys are just figuring it out. Like forget like basically major penalty calls and basically goals and assists and stuff like that. They're just figuring out where to stand, basically how to blow the whistle, and just get used to being the person in charge out there, which is enough. So basically, it was great. Like ultimately, it was a really, really fun hour, and essentially, we had good retention numbers as far as those participants actually coming to us and registering as officials and moving forward. So again, if we find those positive avenues to give those people their first opportunities to give it a try, and at the same time, we have to work within the hockey community at the lowest levels of 8 and under, cross ice or whatever it is, find opportunities to get people out there. And everyone kind of has to keep the right mindset of basically, look, everybody's out here to learn. Everyone's out here to develop. Everyone's out here to make the game better ultimately. And we have to give these officials the opportunity to basically make some mistakes. You have to screw some games up to not screw games up anymore. And that's just the reality. So to give them a positive learning environment where basically they can go out there and improve themselves.
I love that. I love how you've made it fun in your own way. And I bet that was really cool to see. It sounds like it was a fun experience in Columbus. Just to my own experience, and I think Jared's as well, I absolutely love coaching a game. And when a penalty happens in a game and the kid goes to the box, a referee comes over, pokes his head in to the penalty box, has a discussion with that player. And what I have found and seen from the bench is either I've heard it directly or I've asked the kid afterwards, after the expiration of the penalty, hey, what did the ref say to you? And the ref said he gave me instruction. He told me why he called the penalty, things he was going to look for in the future. I absolutely love that. And so I just wanted to touch on that and see, what are you guys doing with in-game instruction and promoting that? Because, boy, I see that as a real valuable thing.
Communication is huge, and basically we're still building out like better curriculum as far as communication skills. And part of it is, in a good game, like an optimal game where everyone has the right mindset and basically attitudes and egos are in check on both sides. Look, officials can be just as egotistical as coaches can be for sure. Everyone has to go in with the right mindset. Yeah, no, this is surprising new information, but at the same time to go in out there and you have the right attitude and basically, you have to make yourself approachable. Whether regardless of which side of the dasher you're on, you have to make yourself approachable and be put yourself and have an ability for someone to basically come talk to you. And whether it's talking to that player, and it may be after the penalty. And in a lot of cases, if you have good communication skills and you're talking to players, you can quite often talk them out of the penalty. Like basically the player that's getting a little too friendly with the stick or maybe delivering the hit a little too late or something like that. Just a quick talk with them. I'm just letting them know where the line in the sand is. Now all of a sudden it's on them. Like basically you've given them the warning. You have to step up and make the call if the call has to be made, but basically you've drawn the line in the sand. They should be able to adjust and adapt. Or, and again, and maybe they're not getting it at that point. Maybe it's a conversation with the coach. And usually the coach is really grateful when you're coming over and talking to them. Look, it's a 1-goal game, tie game. I really don't want to call the penalty. So you got to help me out here. You got to talk to him because this can't keep going. Like we got a good hockey game going up and down, and basically he's not contributing to it. You got to help me fix this.
See, I love that because every game has a tone. And I think from before the first face-off, I try to come down at that level behind the dasher, shake hands. We don't always get, refs are creatures of their most recent, history, and so sometimes they won't come over and talk to the refs. Maybe they had a bad game, the night before, or they just aren't, they don't like to come and talk to the coaches. But I liked the idea of getting down to the dasher. Hey, how's your night going? Thanks for doing this. Thanks for keeping us safe. Please. And I always try to say, hey, if there's anything you're seeing or, if I've got a question, how do you want me to approach you? I'm always trying to set that tone first. Well, not always try. It doesn't always work. I mean, because like you said, we're none of us are perfect. But I do see the coach as really that liaison between the ref and the players, the ref and the parents as well in the stands, and making sure that we're having a, as Bob Mancini says, a good experience. It's got to be a great, and the refs are a big piece of that. So I really appreciate that style of an engaged ref who's not trying to determine the outcome, but they're acknowledging that, hey, we're part of the game. We're a part of this game. We don't want to be a part of the outcome. You know, watch number 11. Maybe he needs to sit a couple shifts. You know, and that's always, I'm very grateful for that type of communication.
Yeah, I mean the analogy I quite often say is, look, I'll disappear until you make me appear. Like basically, if you just want to skate up and down the ice and play hockey,
like that.
I'm perfectly fine with that. Like I get paid regardless of how many times I blow my whistle. I think I even joked one time, like theoretically, you could have a game with basically ultimately, I guess, 4 whistles, one at the end of every period and one for the goal to basically ultimately end the game. We could spend the entire time in one end zone, and basically all the time will run off. Like, I get paid the same. But basically, you know, I'm out here to basically obviously keep the game fair, both sides, look out for player safety and stuff like that. If a player gets out of line with a body check or gets a little too friendly with a stick, that's my job to hold them accountable. And basically anything I can do to hopefully through communication and good game management skills, you know, whether it be working with a coach or basically if the players are old enough, I think that I can talk to them and they'll kind of adhere to what I'm telling them and understand what I'm telling them and what I'm trying to send, the message that I'm trying to send. Hopefully basically that's where you build that rapport. And I say to officials too, like, don't be afraid to compliment a player out there. Player makes a great pass across the slot to a player. You know, maybe the goaltender makes a save. There's nothing wrong with basically complimenting who doesn't like compliments? And basically it's not being biased or unfair, but it's being complimenting a player on a nice shot or a nice save or whatever. It lets them know that you're engaged. You're basically obviously watching, observing, and making notes of things and things like that. I've always believed that the players will respond to that. Like they know you're actively involved in it and you care in the game.
You know, I love that. You know, Drew and I have progressed now. We're coaching in high school. We're winning as a part of the development. It's not win at all costs, but it's winning as a part of the development. And understanding that relationship, I think, helps that team in their development. You know, you mentioned some statistics about 31,000 and change registered as refs, and I heard some statistics in Columbus at that same symposium, and it really was an eye opener for me. Where 40% of 40% of the refs right now, or somewhere in that range, are under the age of 18, and 50% have less than 5 years of experience. And so, in your role as a manager of youth officiating development, you know, you mentioned that 3-year mark as the magic, kind of like the magic threshold that we've got them if they get past that. How are you supporting the local, like here in Missouri, we've got Mehoa. You know, what are you doing to help? One, I think we'd like to see a higher percentage of young refs, but then we'd also like to see a higher percent with more than 5 years experience. What's some of the strategies that USA Hockey's taking, and you in particular? Because I'm always looking for things that we can do here to amplify a message, but also go back to, you know, the organizations and as we talk to them.
Sure. One of the things we're really pushing for more of, and it's funny because again, we were talking about the level 5 in Columbus. Well, 1 week later, we actually had our advanced officiating symposium in Washington, D.C., which is essentially on the officiating side, it's our level 5. The heavy theme for that symposium was mentoring. And it kind of carried the weekend. Like this, we've done 5 of these AOS programs, and basically this one just seemed a little special in the sense that we came up with a theme. The theme kind of backed a lot of the content of the overall weekend, and it really did kind of drive the weekend along. Where even at one point we had breakout sessions where everyone was basically broken into smaller groups, where basically they worked and basically in a workshop to basically discuss what is mentoring, what's the role and the mission of mentoring, who makes great mentors. And basically the idea was to basically build all these best practices and ideas in their heads to bring back home, because it's mentoring can take different looks. A lot of people think of mentoring, they think of basically that guy in the tracksuit out there on the ice following the officials around, which shadowing is definitely can be a part of it. But we like to think of mentoring as a much bigger role, where now all of a sudden a brand new official gets involved. They get that mentor, and that mentor serves as that big brother, big sister, great teammate role where, getting them from application to just getting the crest, all the educational requirements we have, like rule exams, as well as getting to a classroom seminar and all that, having 3 or 4 mentors underneath you, making sure they get through those steps. Like where you get checking in from time to time. Are you hung up on something or you have a question about something? All right, let's help you along with that. Let's just get through these steps and let's get you to the crest. Now all of a sudden they can start taking games. All right, did you reach out to your assigner? Did you get any? Your assigner didn't call you? Okay, I'm going to talk to your assigner. I'm going to get you some games. And maybe you work with them, maybe you don't. It's not critical, but ultimately you're making sure that they have the opportunity to get out there on the ice. And then as the season goes along, checking in through the season. How's your season going? How'd your last weekend of games go? Did you work with a shadow or did you work with a partner? Did you get any feedback? What do you need to work on? What went well? Let's make sure we celebrate the wins as well. What'd you do well out there on the ice? And then, if God forbid, if there's a situation where a team gets out of line, a player gets out of line, a coach gets out of line, basically, again, that mentor can manage that situation where, basically, wait, the coach said what to you? All right, that's out of line. We're taking care of this. So basically, they can reach out to the supervisors or the local hockey association to get this addressed. So basically, now all of a sudden, that official feels supported. Like basically, they had a rough patch, they had a bad experience, but they feel supported. That basically that somebody's going to do something about this. So hopefully they can kind of reset themselves mentally and get back out there on the ice feeling comfortable and secure. That's going to be go back to a good learning environment. And then the last piece is basically when you come around to April and we're looking at our May 1st opening of registration the following year, that mentor's job is to reach out to that official and make sure they want to come back and make sure they feel
that's huge.
We loved having you a part of the team. It was great working with you, and it was great working with you all season long. You're coming back, right? Because we want you back. So now all of a sudden, by that mentoring role, the 3 reasons that officials leave are abuse, lack of opportunity to get out there on the ice and work, and then registration challenges of just managing the registration process. The mentoring role takes care of all of those. I mean, it can't necessarily prevent the abuse from happening in the game, but at the same time, it at least addresses the abuse where the official feels supported afterwards. Because if the 12-year-old doesn't have someone or a 12 or 14-year-old doesn't have somebody out there having their back and basically stepping up for them when someone gets completely out of line, you can't expect the 14-year-old to basically advocate for themselves. They just don't know any better.
Right. And you just touched a little bit on, refs improving their skills and development. And a lot of that sounds like it comes through this mentoring process you put out there, BJ, which sounds awesome. The touch points all throughout the year. Jared and I also noticed there's been a shift in some of the education-based model around officiating, kind of like coaching, where you've moved to a certification model. Can you talk a little bit about that and what kind of results you've seen from that?
Yeah, taking some strong cues from the coaching education program, where they've obviously made some great strides the last 4 or 5 years with revamping their overall education program. It's like the mindset now is getting away from something that I have to do more towards something that I want to do. And basically that's on us as an organization. We have to make the education experience of basically from application to either getting your coaching card or your officiating crest so you can actually get involved get out there and active in the games. Basically, we have to make it as efficient and engaging as possible, where it's something you're looking forward to going and watching your modules, or basically as you go through and you're doing your playing role exercise, like you understand and appreciate the learning experience this is all about. Like no one really likes answering questions and taking exams, but if they're good questions and basically if the official really feels like the questions have value and basically there's good information that they're getting out of it, it's something that it just basically loses a lot of the animosity and basically the pushback of this is something that I just really, really hate doing. I actually feel like I'm getting something valuable out of this. So that's really where we've tried to make our strides, is basically improving the value of the experience itself. And also it has to be efficient and basically accommodating to them where they can do it on their own schedule and their own time. And there's a lot of flexibility there versus particularly like classroom seminars, where if it's done in person, obviously you have a hard date and a hard place that you actually have to be for an in-person classroom, where if you do more virtual training, now all of a sudden a virtual seminar can be hosted anywhere across the country. So that opens up a lot of the flexibility and availability of our classroom seminars.
much of the local organizations are doing the on ice training, right? So, like for instance, Missouri, Mihoa, our officiating organizations doing the on ice training, and is there some form of like not so much exam, but just kind of like you have to go through and again, I'm coming from a place of ignorance. I work with refs. I've never been a ref. But like, how does that work? The on ice piece, because there's a lot of skating that goes on, and you have to you have to have ability to be a good ref. I mean, that's just, I think, is maybe not hard table stakes, but to me, it's a big. The better refs are the better skaters.
No, for sure. And skating can be a challenge, but generally, because as you basically said, roughly 40% of our membership is under the age of 18. Our recruitment, basically our recruitment is coming out of players. So obviously players have different skating abilities, but ultimately it boils down to the local association and the assigner to kind of learn the abilities, but everyone kind of has to appreciate a level 1 official. They only know so much. So that kind of ties back to, while we want virtual training at the level 1, so just to ultimately get to the card and crest, that classroom element, we want that done virtually. We're telling everyone across the board, we still want development events. It's just like those seminars that you did in the past that were in person, they're just going to become development events now. Now all of a sudden, where officials can ultimately come out and you can run them through the paces of some drills and even some games, like regardless what you want to do with them, but basically build in some of those foundational elements, keeping it simple enough in the sense, look, it doesn't have to get too complicated. With like, ultimately they're going to go out there and work 8U cross U hockey, or they're going to work 10U hockey. Relatively simple stuff as far as positioning and all that kind of stuff. So, but we do want those development events, and at the same time, finding ways to build those training grounds with actual games. So, like I said, the try officiating events, or whether it be like an 8U jamboree or something along those lines, those elements where now all of a sudden those officials can go out there in that very, very low pressure, low competitive environment and go out there and just feel comfortable with what they're doing, hopefully with some mentoring and some coaching going on at the same time. But everyone, again, has that right mindset of, we're all here just to get better and just basically improve ourselves as players and improve ourselves as officials out there.
Well, BJ, this has been awesome. I have an older son who's a freshman out of Colorado State University, and he is at the beginning of his officiating journey. I can't wait to share some of these tips and good best practices that you shared today with him. Let him know that there's mentorship as he's beginning his officiating journey. This has been awesome.
And before we go, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, the only thing I'd say is, and I say this to every level 1 official that I meet, is basically the reality is you're getting into a business here. Officiating is a business, and you do have to advocate for yourself as a little bit as an independent contractor. If you want opportunities, if you want to get out there and work, you may have to advocate for yourself and pick up a phone and make a phone call. But ultimately, if you work hard at it and get good at your job, those opportunities are just naturally going to come.
Appreciate it.
All right. So, look, we all have some funny stories. And so, there's plenty of crazy stories about crazy coaches, crazy parents, crazy players, and abusing refs. And our show is about the fun part of this. And so, not to put you on the spot, I know he's from the East Coast, Drew. That's a hockey hotbed similar to Michigan. Any funny stories? If you want to think about it, I've got one from an interaction I had with a ref not too long ago. It was actually in a men's league. And so we're at a men's league game. It's like 10:30, 10:45 at night. And the opposing team, one of the guys on the ice is just irate. Ref's not calling icing. Ref's not calling icing. So we get to a face-off, and I'm out there at the face-off, and the other guy's at the face-off circle, and the guy's just grumbling. He goes, "Hey, listen. Every ref in town wants to ref the Lindenwood Division I game first. And then they want to do the ACHA games. And then they want to do the AAA, AA games. And then they want to ref the 8U games before they come out here at 10:30 at night and ref your old butt hockey games." He goes, "So guess what? Probably not going to get an icing call at 10:45 at night." And just died laughing. It was like, you want to know the tone of the game, guys? Read the room. So that was that. But at that point, didn't hear another peep out of the guy the rest of the night. He was kind of like, okay, it's not the Blues.
No, sometimes you have to you gotta kind of open their eyes for them and kind of keep everything in like you have to keep things in perspective yourself. And again,
Sure.
keep your own attitude and ego in check. But at the same time, yeah, it's humor. Humor can be a great disarming element. You just have to be very, very careful about how you play that card and when you play that card. But I had to kind of build off of that. I remember a professional game I was working many, many years ago, and I was working as a lines person. And I happened to be the back lines person in a potential icing situation. So the player shoots the puck at the red line, and the follow through of the shot, essentially they swept the red line. And basically the interpretation of the icing rule is, whether it be USA Hockey all the way up to pro, basically as long as you basically break the plane with your stick with your follow through, we're good with that. That's a no icing situation. But strictly speaking, the player did release the puck before the red line. So coaches all over me, basically up one side of me, one down the other side of me, about how that should have been an icing situation. So I'm trying to explain it to him. I said, no, we give you that, like both ways, like basically whether it be you, whether it be them, like basically as long as you break the plane with your stick, it's no icing. So he comes back with this kind of snarky line. He says, so if I have a stick 10 feet long, I can stand 10 feet behind the line. It's not going to be an icing call. And I looked at him, I said, no. He goes, well, why not? I said, you can't play with a 10-foot stick. It's illegal.
Know the rules, man. Know the rules.
He didn't like it. Fortunately, the players did. I caught a couple of smiles on the bench in front of him. Like, he can't see his players react. His players were actually laughing. So I knew the players were on my side. So
well, I think humor is great. I've got some refs who I'm actually somewhat friends with, and they'll say, hey, I didn't see it, and I said, well, I did, and he goes, well, you are wearing glasses. He said that to me since I was wearing glasses on the bench. So I love the tip, though. I'm going to use it, because my stick's not 10 feet, but if I just kind of lean forward and break that plane, coming from the red line. BJ, we can't thank you enough for joining us today, and obviously, coming back from a couple weeks ago where we had those difficulties. Great topics today. Thank you so much for what you do, and thank you to you and all of USA Hockey for being great contributors and friends of our show. Best of luck this season, and where can if there's other resources that we can go to and download or go and send people to learn more about officiating, what's a great website that we can shoot people to?
Certainly exploring the officiating section of USA Hockey, usahockey.com. If you want to learn more about whether it be the education aspects of basically what it takes to be an official, or if you just have general interest yourself, what it takes ultimately to become an ice hockey referee with USA Hockey. But at the same time, some of our other programs, like what the Advanced Officiating Development Program, for those guys who kind of refer to them as our thoroughbreds, for lack of a better term, the guys that really want to get after it. They want to go on to bigger and better things, or our elite experience, which is the platform, the springboard to getting into IHF hockey and stuff like that. But also our resource. We were kind of joking before this that basically within the officiating world, we did a podcast series during COVID when we really didn't have anything better to do. So our officiating Zoomcast series, you can certainly find that at the officiating section of usahockey.com. And it just runs the table of all different topics, whether it be positioning, judgment, types of penalty calls, off-ice routines, on-ice routines. Like it's a really good library on demand of basically all these resources pertaining to officiating. So.
Well, BJ, thanks for joining us today, giving us almost 40 minutes of your time. We're gonna say goodbye here today, and we'll keep in touch over the course of the year, obviously through Bob and the rest of the team. But good luck with the rest of the season, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you for your dedication to USA Hockey.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, Drew, I got to tell you, man. I got to tell you, one of the funny stories about goaltending and officiating is it felt like every official I knew was a former goalie. So we probably should ask BJ if they're dipping into those goaltending ranks to get the next batch of officials. So
there you go. That sounds like an assembly line to me.
Absolutely. Well, we got number 2 of the OT segment in the books. I think we've got some great shows lined up for the rest of the season, especially as high school hockey begins and we begin our odyssey of going from rink to rink, talking to players and coaches. I'm good here. You got anything else you want to share before we kick it off over to our producer Grant and shoot and score and win?
Hey, enjoy the rest of those preseason hockey games because the games that count in regular season are right around the corner.
Thanks for joining us here at Too Many Men on Mike, where hockey is more fun the better you get at it. We shot, we scored, overtime is over. Play the song, Grant.
See you next week.
Take care, all.